November 24, 1971. On a cold Thanksgiving Eve, a quiet man walked into Portland International Airport carrying only a briefcase and a secret. He bought a one-way ticket to Seattle under the name Dan Cooper. Dressed in a dark suit, white shirt, black tie, and sunglasses, he looked like an ordinary businessman. Minutes after takeoff, he handed a flight attendant a note. She read it, froze, and looked up. "I have a bomb," it said. History had just changed. He calmly opened his briefcase, just enough to reveal what appeared to be a bomb wires, red cylinders, and a battery. Without raising his voice, he made his demands. $200,000 in cash, for parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle. There was no panic in his eyes, only confidence. The crew relayed his message to the cockpit, and within minutes, the FBI and local authorities were racing against time. To avoid alarming the passengers, the captain announced that the aircraft would circle before landing because of a minor technical issue. No one suspected a hijacking. Meanwhile, authorities scrambled to gather the ransom money and 4 parachutes exactly as Cooper demanded. As the plane remained in the sky, every passing minute increased the tension. The fate of everyone on board rested on the calm decisions of one mysterious man in a business suit. Flight 35 finally landed in Seattle under the cover of night. Following Cooper's instructions, the aircraft was parked far from the terminal. One by one, the passengers were released, unaware of how close they had come to danger. Bags of cash and 4 parachutes were delivered to the plane. Cooper inspected everything carefully before allowing the flight crew to prepare for takeoff once again. The most dangerous part of his plan was only beginning, with only the pilot, co-pilot, flight engineer, and 1 flight attendant remaining on board. Cooper gave his next instructions. He ordered the plane to fly toward Mexico at a low altitude, with the landing gear partially lowered and the rear stairway ready to be deployed. Despite warnings that the plan was dangerous, Cooper remained calm. Outside, heavy rain and strong winds filled the night as Flight 305 disappeared into the darkness once again. Unknown to Cooper, military fighter jets quietly followed the aircraft through the storm, keeping their distance to avoid detection. Inside the cabin, the flight attendant received one final instruction to leave him alone and enter the cockpit. Minutes later, the crew noticed a sudden change in air pressure, followed by a sharp movement of the aircraft. The rear stairs had been lowered. Somewhere in the darkness, Cooper had made his move. Battling fierce winds, freezing rain, and complete darkness, Cooper stepped onto the rear stairway with the ransom strapped to his body. Then, without hesitation, he vanished into the night. No one saw him jump. When the plane landed safely in Reno, Nevada, the crew found the cabin empty. The parachutes were gone. The money was gone. D.B. Cooper had disappeared without leaving a trace, beginning one of history's greatest mysteries. By sunrise, the FBI launched one of the largest manhunts in American history. Hundreds of agents, police officers, soldiers, and volunteers searched the forests and rugged mountains of the Pacific Northwest. Helicopters swept the skies while search teams combed rivers and valleys. Yet despite days of searching, they found no body, no parachute, and almost no evidence. It was as if Cooper had vanished into thin air. Investigators examined every clue they could find. Cooper's black clip-on tie, several cigarette butts, fingerprints, and witness statements were collected for analysis. Artists created sketches based on descriptions from the flight crew, and the suspect's face appeared on newspapers and television across the country. Thousands of tips poured in, but each promising lead ended the same way, with no arrest and no sign of the mysterious hijacker. Over the years, the FBI investigated hundreds of suspects, former soldiers, skydivers, criminals, and ordinary citizens were all considered. Every theory seemed believable until the evidence fell apart. Then, in 1980, a young boy named Brian Ingram discovered bundles of the ransom money buried along the banks of the Columbia River. The serial numbers matched the stolen cash, proving that at least part of Cooper's ransom had survived, but raising even more questions than answers. The discovery shocked investigators. How had the money reached the riverbank? Had Cooper survived the jump, or had the current carried the cash there years later? Experts argued for decades, but no explanation satisfied everyone. Advances in forensic science brought fresh hope, yet every new test ended where the old ones had, with unanswered questions. The mystery only grew deeper as the years passed. As decades passed, the legend of D.B. Cooper grew larger than the man himself. Books, documentaries, and countless theories tried to solve the case. Some believed he escaped and lived quietly under a new identity. Others argued he never survived the jump through the freezing, stormy night. Without definitive evidence, every theory remained speculation, keeping the mystery alive for generations. In 2016, after more than 4 decades of investigation, the FBI officially suspended its active investigation into the D.B. Cooper case. The agency had followed thousands of leads, interviewed countless suspects, and analyzed every available clue. Yet none could reveal Cooper's true identity or fate. Although the active case was closed, the mystery itself remained unsolved and continued to fascinate people around the world. More than 50 years later, one question still refuses to fade. Who was D.B. Cooper? Was he a highly trained parachutist who escaped into the wilderness? Or an ordinary man whose gamble ended in tragedy? The evidence points in different directions, and every answer creates another mystery. Perhaps the greatest trick Cooper ever pulled wasn't hijacking a plane, it was disappearing from history without a trace. Today, the story of D.B. Cooper remains the only unsolved skyjacking case in U.S. history. His real name, the empty skies, have long since fallen silent, but the legend lives on, reminding us that sometimes the greatest mysteries are the ones that are never solved. The next story is even more unbelievable. Hit the follow button and subscribe to VXP Vision so you never miss what's coming next.